el derecho de vivir. Poeta Ho Chi Minh, que golpea de Vietnam a toda la humanidad. Ningún cañón borrará el surco de tu arrozal, el derecho de vivir en paz.
Thank you for the question, and I am so honored to be here with so many amazing, brilliant comrades who are part of the long intergenerational struggle against imperialism and the war machine. In my opinion, the role of students here in the belly of the beast hasn't changed much since the 1960s. When younger generations start to rise up, start to shake off that fear and complicity, the ruling class gets scared, which is demonstrated by the repression that the current movements against the genocide in Gaza have faced. The student encampments that broke out last spring came after 7 months, and honestly a lot longer than that too, of constantly being out in the streets, constant protests, demonstrations, teach-ins, sit-ins, walkouts, everything we could think of around the same set of demands. Back in November of 2023, our demands were the full disclosure of any and all material ties of our universities to the Israeli occupation and genocide in Gaza, and for our universities to publicly acknowledge the Israeli occupation, its settler colonialism, apartheid in Palestine, and the genocide in Gaza. Not only did our universities ignore these demands, but they did the complete opposite. They perpetuated Israeli lies about rape and beheaded babies, and they continued to punish students and faculty who spoke out in opposition to the genocide. By April of 2024, there were no universities left in Gaza. Isra University, the last one standing, was bombed into rubble in January. So in response to calls from Gaza to escalate our tactics in the United States and the Imperial Core at large, students decided to take back our power at universities, to take back public space and turn them into spaces for learning, for organizing, for living together around the clock, to do anything that we could to try and throw a wrench in the supply of weapons and political cover that the US has provided to the Israeli genocide. One of our favorite chants at the encampment was, "The more you try to silence us, the louder we will be." I think this speaks to the willingness of students who are out on the front lines to take risks. People were willing to risk their lives, people were willing to go to prison. There are still 8 CUNY students facing felony charges who are going to be in court this week. That's one great way to support the student movement right now, is to show up for them. Over 3,100 students were arrested last spring during the encampments. But we continue to be inspired by the resilience and the steadfastness of the resistance in Palestine. And we continue to try to shake off that fear and to come together to resist in creative ways here in Imperial Core. Another one of our favorite chants was NYPD, KKK, IOF, they're all the same, which I think speaks not only to the historical foundations of this country in the genocide of Black and Indigenous people of Turtle Island and of Africa, but also to the deadly exchange that is ongoing between the IOF and police departments here in the United States. The same weapons, the same tactics of repression are used against Palestinians in Palestine and Palestinians in the diaspora and their allies here in the United States. One of the main lessons that we learned from previous generations in the struggle who came to support our movements during the encampments was from the generation that resisted the American war, the war in Vietnam, of revolutionary optimism, which our Palestinian comrades also taught us that they had learned from comrades in Vietnam and were inspired by the victory of the Vietnamese people that we're celebrating here today. Revolutionary optimism means that despite the repression we face, we can never give up. We must continue to unite, and we must continue to fight for a world free from imperialism and free from the vicious war machine that is in its death throes today. You asked how you can support the student movement for Palestine. And honestly, we shouldn't be thinking about how to support US students in this moment. We should be thinking about how to support the youth and students of Palestine, still in Gaza, unable to go to school because there are no schools left, because they don't have food, or clean water, or houses to go to school in. So I would say the way to support us is to not be afraid to raise your voice in whatever institutions you're in, your unions, your political parties, in your local governments, to take a clear principled stance against Zionism, against apartheid, and against genocide anywhere in the world, but especially right now in Palestine. And by any means necessary, to support the Palestinian people's right to resist, and at the same time to disrupt the war machine here and the supply of weapons and munitions and political cover, et cetera, that the US is providing to the occupation. So that someday maybe my generation, who's currently fighting for Palestine, might be able to sit in a room like this and celebrate the 50th anniversary of the victory of the people of Palestine and of liberation for us all. Thank you.